Welcome to Minding My Business. I hope you're having a blessed up day. And if you're not, hopefully today's episode is going to bless you up. This was a show dedicated to celebrating people that have created a lane for themselves and are doing extraordinary things in the world. The whole point of the show is to help you elevate your business, your mindset, and your life. Enjoy the show. Our powerhouse guest today is Javi Chavez. I hope I said that right? He's a
Perfect.
serial entrepreneur, business strategist, speaker, and host of the Wealthy Business podcast. He's scaled 5 companies to 7 and even 8 figures, and he's helping others do the same as well with coaching. He's a COO of Pineda Company and so much more, a father to be, a husband. Congratulations on your new blessings this year. How exciting.
Yes. Yeah, and those last two are things I'm like the most excited and proud of. So it's been great. And follower of God, most importantly.
Yes, and yes, follower of God, of course, man of God. So thank you for being on the show today. And before all of these tasks, roles, and responsibilities that you have going on, you could have chosen like any career path, and you chose a career path to be a serial entrepreneur, but not only a serial entrepreneur for yourself to help other companies, but also to yeah, to help your company and other companies. So what got you into this, like out of everything?
Well, I kind of stumbled into it and it was kind of out of necessity. So I dropped out of college when I was 19. And with that, like I was doing sales. So like my background's a lot of sales, tech sales. I was selling cars for a long time. But at 19, I was making like 50, 60 grand a year, and I thought I was going to be rich. I was like, I'm already making more than the standard college grad, which is terrible thinking, dumb thinking. But so I dropped out and I had a lot of fun. Was still making okay money, but then I remember all my friends graduated in 2017, and I was like, oh crap, what am I actually gonna do? Because I was doing sales and I had a knack for it, but I wasn't like excelling or like doing very well or anything. And so I was like, like what's gonna happen? Like now I really have to figure it out. So now looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, I'm good at sales. I'm decent at, business and I have an interest in it. This is really the only option for me because like where else are they going to hire somebody without a degree who's like 21, 22 years old if I'm not really, really skilled? So
Mhm.
then I just really focused on building up my skill set. And that's kind of how I ended up growing and leveling up. I bounced around. Like one of the things I talked about previously was I would quit my job almost every year, or I would get quit upon. Meaning, like
Get what upon? I've never heard of that.
yeah,
Did you just make
yeah,
that up?
yeah. I just made that up right now. So that's basically
I like
where you
that.
get fired. But because
Got
I
quit
would just like lose.
upon.
Yeah, I got quit upon. What happened, guys? But because I was just, I would lose interest, right? I would lose interest, or I'd max out my compensation plan at a specific place, and then I would end up moving on to somewhere else. So I'd always, for the most part, would make like upward mobility moves whenever I would quit or move on to the next thing. And so then fast forward to right around 2020, I finally had a little bit of money in my pocket from sales. I found my boss, Ryan. Back then I was a student, so I invested 20 grand into coaching to learn how to invest in real estate, wholesale houses, that kind of thing. Did that part-time while living in San Diego. I still kept my full-time job. Jim Rohn says, make more money at your part-time job than you do your full-time job. I got close. So did that for 2 years. And then fast forward to 2022, I find, well, Ryan actually comes to San Diego for a speaking gig. And whenever he travels, he always wants to play golf. So we go. He's like, hey, do you want to go play some golf? I was like, absolutely. That sounds fun. Little do I know that also what comes along with that is becoming a glorified Uber driver. So I was driving him around, chauffeuring him, but we spent a lot of time together. So while we're on the golf course, I didn't know this at the time, and this is, now looking back on it 3 years later, like this is just how the Holy Spirit moves. I wasn't looking for a job. He wasn't looking to hire me, but he was building out our parent company, Pineda Company, and he needed a sales manager. And I already had all this experience in not only the real estate side, but I had experience through building big businesses. The business that I was working for at the time was the second fastest growing company to go from zero to $100 million in reoccurring revenue. So we moved, it was super quick. It's a tech company, had like 900 employees at the time. But anyway, um, so I was already developing all these skills over here, and then which related very well with what Ryan was trying to build. He was trying to build, continue with his with his real estate business, build out the education company. Now we have softwares, we have all these other products that we're selling. So my skill set just aligned really, really well with what he was looking for. So we make a handshake deal on the golf course on a Friday. Sunday, he sends me a text message offer. Do a little bit of negotiation. Monday, I quit my job. Wednesday, I'm working for Ryan. So it moved pretty quick. And that was
Wow.
yeah, 2022. So now fast forward now, it's almost been because that was February. So we're coming up on 3 years, and it's been
3 years.
awesome ride.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm honored to, I've known you for a few years and
Hmm.
I've seen your growth, not only as like with the company and like the external world, but also the internal world of who you are as a human being, who you are as a man, who you are as a, like before you're a leader. And let's like go back a little bit more, what with all these roles, tasks, and responsibilities that you have, because it's only piling up more. One of my favorite quotes is like, with great responsibility comes great power, but with great power comes great responsibility. Sometimes that could freak people out a little bit. But you do things and you make it look so effortless. So let's talk about your daily habits, rituals, and routines that allow you to feel like Superman and to be able to tackle anything that comes your way if you do those things into practice, like your DMOs.
Yeah, I mean, you helped out a lot with that. We started I mean, we started working together like almost right around this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, I think routines should be important. I think like people talk about the little wins and stuff like that as you build out throughout the day.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you want me to just kind of break down what I'm doing right now,
Yeah, so
it's
if somebody wants to know like what like how does Javi operate and handle all this stuff and just be so cool? Like you're like a Matthew McConaughey, like he's just cool, but he like does so many things.
well, I think it number one starts with like emotional regulation. Like I think I've always had like for the most part, a pretty like chill demeanor and a cool demeanor.
Hmm.
Um, but that also comes from like practice. And then also this year specifically, I've had a lot of peace. Like this, like just so everyone knows, like this has been the craziest year for us in business ever in terms of like the amount of changes, the economy changes, just all kinds of stuff. But
Yeah.
this is the most peaceful that I've ever felt. And I do credit that a lot to just my relationship that has grown with God and the Holy Spirit. Like that's like that has helped the most, period. So if I mean anybody like that's number one. But number two is through maybe it's like blind ignorance sometimes. I'm like, dude, I think I can just get this done. Like
But
it's
you're an
not that hard.
athlete too. Like
Yeah.
you're an athlete and you've kind of transmuted that also into like your career, wouldn't you say? Or
I would
am I
agree.
off?
Yeah. No, I think that has definitely helped out. I think I was really lucky with a couple of mentors that I had very early, like in my high school life, where like
Hmm.
they valued like hard work. They valued just showing up and doing the job, regardless of how you feel. And so like I think I do approach a lot of things with joy and being like you said, cool and chill and that demeanor. But it is rooted in hey, like you have to show up and do your job no matter what.
Hmm.
Like at the end of the day, if and this probably did also stem from sports where it's like just show up. If you do your job, the person next to you does their job, everybody wins, right?
Hmm.
And then there is also comfort in if I showed up and did my job that day and we still lost, and the person next to me showed up and did their job and we still lost, I can walk away with feeling good about a loss because we did what we could. And then that's also transitioned into business. So at the end of the day, even if we fail at something, we look at it and we're like, okay, you know what? Like we did everything that we could have done to make this endeavor or this effort successful. And then we just take it on to the next thing. And so I know we're going off on a tangent. I know you wanted to know about like
No,
the
I
morning
know.
routine, but this is good.
But I
Yeah.
love how you broke that down too, because you're talking about a mindset and what the mindset also comes like daily rituals and practices and habits
Hmm.
and that like discipline for like performance. And so yeah, let's talk about you today and like what does your morning and your night routine look like? For you to have like a 10 out of a 10 day, like if you're to audit your day and you're like, okay, I showed up at peak performance and all these curveballs threw at me, but I was like boom, 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 like a little video game.
Sure. Yeah. So I wake up right around 5 to 5:20, depending on the day. And then I straight like roll out of bed, go right to the gym. In the morning, protein shake, and then I got my blood work done this year as well. I've been doing that consistently. So I'm taking like 20 different supplements. So I take the majority of those in the morning, like right when I wake up, I have a protein shake, head to the gym. The gym's like a 15-minute drive or so. So
Mhm.
I just go through some sort of devotional for like the Bible app, or like right now
Mm,
I'm reading a couple books that are like biblically rooted. So
mhm,
that's I'm listening to that on the way there.
mm,
Gym from 5:45, 6 o'clock until like 7. Get back, and then I'm hanging out with Sam for a little bit.
mhm,
Um, Shower, standard stuff, just getting ready for the day. Skincare, some stuff like that. And then I'm at the office by right around 8:30. And then 8:30 to 9 is kind of like my time to kind of like just get situated, make sure everything's ready to go. And then from 9 to like 11, 9 to like 10:30, I try to block off unless we have a sales meeting, or like Mondays are our big meeting day. So like those are all like company meetings, different individual team meetings, but
mhm,
and then Tuesdays and Thursdays are sales meeting days. But aside from that, I
mhm,
try to block off that 9 to 11 time to like
mhm,
just do work. And
mhm,
then from 11 to ideally no later than um 12, like I have like the scheduled meetings with the company, and then I leave the afternoons for like stuff like this, right? So the
mhm,
afternoons are wide open, so I know most days, like even when I talk to you, I was like, yeah, I know I can do like after 12, just because that's my time to like take outside meetings or do podcasts or whatever. And
mhm.
then somewhere in between there I'm eating. Um, I have like pre-made meals like that I
Yeah.
buy. So they like, and they're all healthy stuff. So I just go like every Monday, I go pick that stuff up for the week. So I have meals at the office, uh, eat, and then I'm home by like
Mm,
5:30, and then hanging out with Sam. I'm really trying to monitor my screen time right now. So like I've been reading more at night. So I've been trying to just like, because a lot of the time it just ends up being like TikTok or something stupid. So I monitor a lot of my reading, and then or I monitor a lot of my screen time so I can read, and then I'm in bed by 8:30. Like I'm
mm.
done.
Yeah.
And that's
I
it.
like
And then
asking these questions because go ahead. What were you gonna say?
no, I was just saying, and then obviously, like one thing that Sam and I have started doing too is like we pray at night together. And I think that there's a stat. It's like uh the chances of divorce, like 1 in 1,500 couples who pray get a divorce, which is a huge stat. Or
Yeah.
it's who pray together, by the way, not like which is crazy compared to the 50% success rate. So like 1 in 1,500
Mhm.
versus 50-50.
Mhm.
That's a huge difference. So that's something that we've been doing, and it's been fun. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the and then I take some supplements at night, and then I'm if I'm up past 9, it's a rough day. I'm doing something else, but
Yeah.
ideally Monday through Friday, I'm I'm out by 9 o'clock, in bed by 8:30.
Yeah. How critical, like I like how you mentioned that too, because it is there's so much power in routine. And I think people think there's a secret formula to it. So it's like to hear exact routines, and they're pretty similar for high performers like yourself and people that are have big goals and big visions and dreams that God plants inside of you. And then, you just gotta do it. And it's not magic, it's nothing circus actish. It's literally discipline, commitment, consistency.
Yeah,
And
it's literally just showing up and then actually doing the work once you're there. Like that's
mm, I love
and I
that.
mean you can compare it to the gym or anything else. It's just show up, do the work, and go home, and then you can be present. And then it's just being present, and something that we talked about when we were working together too. But one thing that I really respect about Ryan, and something that I try to emulate in my life too, is when you're there and you're present and you're doing the thing. And that's what has allowed us to run multiple businesses. That's what allows us, like, right before this meeting, I had a client that's one of our one-on-one clients that I had a
Mhm,
30-minute call with. Prior to that, I had another meeting. We had Bible study from 7:30 to 8 to 9 o'clock. Oh, and then
mhm,
in between that, right before that, we had an appointment for the baby. And so which was like 10 minutes away. So yeah, I mean, but being able to be present nonstop at each specific thing has
Mm.
allowed us to be effective, and just maximize every hour that we have.
Wow. How is that like? So speaking of like the present thing, because I want to talk the power in being present, because I know that was something that was like one of your basic like wants when we did start working together. But like, how have you seen that impact like you as a leader in inspiring and motivating other people around you?
Um, I think it's something that I try to focus on quite a bit. It's like if I'm having a like, and I sometimes I don't even bring my phone into meetings because I don't want to like even have that temptation. But it's
Mm,
helped out quite like it's made me just a better problem solver, I think most importantly.
mm,
I'm able to like actually hear what the problem is, really think deeply about how to solve it. Um, and people notice that stuff too. Like, and that's something that I've noticed over the last at least like couple years. Like if you're not present, you're on your phone or whatever in that type of meeting where like I'm trying to like actually hear what they have to say, then they can pick up on that pretty quickly. So that's something that I try to focus on as much as possible is just actually hearing whatever my team is talking about or whatever
mm.
we're trying to do and, you know, have effective communication.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing that up too, because I think people bypass that in the entrepreneur world about malpractice that can be prevented by learning skill sets like being present. They talk a lot about it in the medical field, but what about in the entrepreneur space? Like, have you noticed
Hmm.
you've caught more things faster and you've almost like seen things before they happen because of that skill set and because you take responsibility on prioritizing your self-care?
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. And I think one of my skill sets, one of my unique things that I'm pretty good at is I'm pretty perceptive of
Mm,
like I can see like what people are dealing with or what's going on. So I think that's helped out quite a bit in just in business in general, especially like with I think Ryan's a really good motivator and a good leader. And then I
mm,
have like the soft skills to like really see like how people are receiving whatever he's saying, and then who do I
mm.
need to talk to make sure that we're still aligned and we're doing the things we're supposed to do.
I love that. And so you mentioned pivoting a few times. Like you said this year, I mean, every business, if anybody's saying they weren't pivoting, I don't think they're an honest person
Hmm.
with. So you mentioned a lot about like pivoting and being in the right mindset. How do you know when it's time to pivot, whether it being something because like something bad maybe happened or and you have to pivot, or maybe it's time to pivot for you to innovate and grow and expand and nothing bad has happened?
Yeah, that's honestly a really good question. The biggest things that we run into with like when to pivot, how to pivot, um, it's having like your daily numbers, your weekly numbers, and then like your monthly goals as well, right? So and there's a few different types of KPIs, right? There's like your key process indicators. Those are the things that you're going to focus on daily. Meaning, if I'm a salesperson, how many phone calls am I making? How many people did I talk to? Right? How many conversations am I having? Then you have your weekly numbers, and those are your key like kind of performance indicators. Like, hey, like how many deals did I close this week? And then you have your end of month numbers, and that's how much revenue came into the business, right?
Mm,
And so tactically, if I see like one day of the daily metrics kind of going off, all right, whatever, we're gonna watch it. Another day of the metrics going off, and a third day, and then I'm like, okay, now there's some sort of red flag here, whether that be through lead flow, my sales team not making a certain amount of calls, not enough people are getting onboarded the way they're supposed to, whatever that daily metric is. If that falls out of whack, then we see like the weekly numbers go off, and then if we have 2-3 weeks of bad performance or bad sales numbers or bad revenue numbers or whatever you're tracking, then we know that we need to go pivot and change and implement something. So I think it comes
mm,
from when things are going bad. What I see a lot with entrepreneurs is they look at the end of the quarter, they do a quarterly review, and it's like, well, where'd our money go? And so if you're not tracking the daily things, the weekly things, then you're going to run into issues that could have been prevented by something that you were looking into, if you were tracking those numbers. Now, the next question that you had is, how do you do that when things are going right or when you haven't fully even seen the writing on the wall. For us this year, well, even this was like, at least with the education, the info space. I know you work with a lot of people. A lot of people are out of business right now,
Mhm.
and a lot of people are, like you said, they might say that they're doing okay, but I don't think so.
You got to
And
be creative.
yep, and that's so we saw the writing on the wall right around this time when we were like right around this time last year.
Mm.
Like October, November, we were like, hey, like things are starting to shift and we
Mhm.
don't know what's going on. And so for the last like 4 months at the beginning of the year, we were testing a lot, we were pivoting, we were trying all kinds of different things with the offer. We pivoted on the real estate side. We started running Facebook ads instead of running TV commercials, which is what we used to do for a really long time. Anyway, we were doing testing a bunch. And fast forward to today, we have rolled out a really, really good product. And now our numbers are, and this is me being super, super open, and most people are like, um, they like inflate their numbers or whatever. But we had 50, like I think we had 60 people sign up for our coaching last month. And then which is our high ticket stuff, not just like our $97 a month communities. Like we had people like, and those numbers we haven't seen in a really long time. Because we made a better product. We innovated, we added more things, we added softwares and services that people actually need to use and to be successful in our industry. So without getting too deep into like the coaching industry and all that stuff, we basically just like anytime that you're having problems, look at your offer, look at what you're selling, and how can you improve upon that to because once you have a good product, like our product's really, really solid these days, and that's why we don't have a problem selling it anymore. So that's kind of our
Mhm.
thought there. So it's Gary Vee has a really good quote where it's like, think about the ways you can put yourself out of business. So, like, how would you put you out of business? And that would be like what we think about when even when things are going well. Like, what are the things that we can add, improve to make sure that the customer experience is really solid, to make sure that our marketing is staying on like on par with everything else that's going out there. So that's really our big focus.
That's amazing. And I know like, some people, few people, what I've realized is they can handle the pressure of pivoting because in any entrepreneur space, it's a sport. It's a freaking sport. You have a lot of people that you're responsible with and for. And so, how do you, number one, you mentioned a few tools. If you have any other tools you could share with us, that would be awesome for the people that are listening to handle that type of like stress and pressure when you're dealing with so many different personalities that maybe are having a harder time with pivoting and with like maybe so many changes all at once.
So early on, like I would say this would probably be like 2 years ago, even last year. The biggest mistake that I personally would make as a leader with pivoting and with changing would be not communicating the
Mm,
full details to the team, right? So I would get the vision. Ryan and I would sit down, or the other leaders of the company would sit down, and we would be like, "Hey, all right, we're going to test this thing." Then I would go to the team and tell them, "Hey, this is what we're doing now. These are the changes. Whatever, get ready." And I didn't communicate the last part of it being a test, right? And so I was like, I don't think they need to know all this. I don't think I need to over communicate all the details. They just need to go out and execute so that way we can have a good test.
mm,
But then in a week or whatever, once we got the results of the test, once we figured out whatever it was that we needed to figure out, and we pivot again, then the whole team is like their head spinning because they just did all this work to build these landing pages, to build this offer, to build the automations on the back end, to make sure everything fires, and then it's all blown up, which I understand could be super demoralizing. So the
mm,
biggest thing when you're pivoting and when you're changing is just over communication. So over
mm,
communicate that this is a test and that this will change again, and that I also need your feedback to make sure that the test does perform the way it's supposed to. So once I looped everybody in and everybody was in on the fact that it's a test, we saw better success. The team gives us better feedback and they're along for the ride with us. And so I think that's the big thing. So it's not necessarily like early on I would just be like, "Hey, point and shoot, go do it, go execute." And now and let me make the decisions. Now they feel like they're involved in the
mm,
actual test and the decision as well. And now, even if I don't use their feedback, which a lot of times, sometimes we don't, but at
Mhm.
least they provided the feedback and they feel like they were heard. So I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing when talking about pivoting and changing.
Mm. Do you also incorporate that into, I do believe that you are in everything in your life, your relationship, like you as a husband and a
Hmm.
new father to be, you as a leader, as a team player, as like all these different things, a speaker, um, and as a coach, because you're a coach also for
Hmm.
clients. Do you How do you intertwine that also in all the other areas of your life, not just that one area of your career?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is everything is communication.
Mm,
Regardless of whether you're communicating on from a stage, you're communicating on a podcast, you're communicating with your significant other. Um, so if you can like just get to the root of over communication, meaning like making sure that you are on the same page through everything that you do. And if there is any ambiguity, you need to get that out and clear it up so that way you guys can move on. And I mean, that's the biggest thing I think between with me and my wife too. I think it's just
mhm,
um she knows everything. And that's something that hasn't happened in previous relationships too. But because of it, because we have that over communication type of relationship, it's um it's made everything a whole lot easier. And
mm,
I think so that's the same thing with like business. And I think anything that I've done in this kind of universe as a leader has all related back to just over communication, making sure that everyone's on the same page. There's no gray areas, and if there are gray areas, like I'll tell a story. We just had like our sales team was having some issues with like lead ownership and with like oh like hey like with this lead like this person talked to this lead and whatever, right? So I was just instead of me just like trying to isolate one specific incident after another specific incident, I brought everybody into a room and
mhm,
I sat there and I said, "Hey, we've had some issues." And obviously I led the conversation, but hey, we had some issues. This is the last time that I'm going to hear about it. I want everybody to like express whatever it is, and we're all going to sit here and figure it out together. And that's uncomfortable to do. And same thing in a
mm.
relationship. That's uncomfortable to do. Um, but that by the end of it, everybody was on the same page. Um, and we haven't had any any issues since. So that's kind of the thought process behind it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, communication is such a huge trait to have. Well, you also have a strong, keen sense of emotional intelligence. So you got to make sure people have great emotional management, like you said in the beginning, and then being able to help others navigate through that. How do you keep focused? Maybe when you're going through some personal things, but you still have to be able to compartmentalize your business from your personal life. I notice a lot of people have a challenging time with that. Do you have any like strategies or tips or things that
That's
have been
so
helpful for you?
hard
No.
because I do compartmentalize actually I think pretty well.
Mm,
And early on in like my early 20s like that was I mean that was that power can be used for good or evil. um, and so as far as like for me I have always done a very good job of being able like whatever's going on over here I can shut that off to just show up at to work and go do what I need to do for 8 hours. Um, tips,
like if you
it's
had
tough.
a teammate come up to you and you're like, yo, what's up? I noticed your work performance is going
Hmm.
down, and they're going through personal things and I just don't know how to like not project my stuff into the workforce. Like what would you like sit down, you know, and advice you would give them? You're like,
I
just do it.
I mean, honestly, yeah, it's like, hey, listen, like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, and it depends if I'm talking to a man or a woman, and
Mm.
just
Okay,
transparently, right?
can we give the difference? Because we have both genders on the podcast of entrepreneurs. So I would love to
Yeah, I
hear.
mean,
So a male comes
I
in.
think, yeah, and so mail comes in. I mean, at the end of the day, like you are, like, there, no one's gonna come to save you. Like, and this is the way I personally think, and this is the way I think,
Yeah.
it needs to be done. Like, no one, even though I am your boss, it is like and I want to see you succeed. at the end of the day, no one is going to come save you, especially, and it also depends on the role, right? I'm talking specifically to like mostly sales because that's typically what I see when people are like struggling with a certain type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so like on the sales side, or like an entrepreneurial type person. So like if a salesperson comes to me, I'm like, dude, like no one is going to come to help you with whatever issues you have. Like if you have a family, like you are the main provider of your family.
Mm-hmm.
You will be. And at the end of the day, as an adult male, like there aren't very many social services that are going to come in and help you out. Like it's just is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that things are tough or things that you're going through, whatever you're going through, but at the end of the day, like you just got to show up and get to work. and and that's it's tough love, but like that's really it. Like it's my
Mm-hmm.
like and as a leader, I want to see you succeed. I'll do what I can. Like if we need additional training, like sit down and we'll go through it and we'll like make sure that you can do your job effectively. But at the end of the day, you got to compartmentalize. You just got to show up for 8 hours and then you
Mm-hmm.
can go feel it. One of the things that I did really like that I've heard recently is somebody has like a 5 minute rule.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 5 minutes to feel, to be mad, to be angry, whatever. Feel everything that you feel because you shouldn't just box it up and put it away. I agree with that. But feel it, and then after 5 minutes, you're done. And if you need another 5 minutes after that 5 minutes, take it. But at certain point, you need to like cut it and now move on with your day and get back to work. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that's not like the nicest answer, but it's the realest one I have. Um,
The
and
female comes in.
yeah, a female comes in, and I've had this happen before. And I, Sam says like that I like, it's a good thing that I'm having a girl because I'm meant to be a girl dad, according to her.
She's
Just
gonna be
because
your lesson.
yeah. But with her, it's when I spoke with the person that was having some issues at home, and I was like, look, like I understand that, like I feel for you, and I know it's harder as a woman to compartmentalize because like your emotions flow through everything, typically when you have a more feminine energy, um, and I'm trying to remember what exactly I said, but I was like, I did still kind of compare it to I was like, look, like these guys out there they're able to kind of shut it off and then turn it on. Like can't necessarily do that. Like you're gonna feel through all of it. But at the end of the day, like you're gonna have to channel your positive energy to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you can go perform and do the things you need to do. Because in this type of role, you are still a provider. And so you have a decision to make. Like, either are you going to continue to feel it throughout the day and let it impact your performance and now your whole day's ruined? Or again, feel it, be angry or be sad or whatever. But then at some point, you got to go get back to work. And so it is a very similar message, but it's like, I think there's a little bit more of empathy I think
Mm-hmm.
for a woman than I would typically have for a man.
Yeah, I think you use some really great, like, intentional words because it's like, you get to make the decision, you have to channel in that energy. And wow, I'm like, whoa, that was really good. That was
Yeah,
great. Because
good.
sometimes, people don't know, but I know you. Another thing too that's super, I mean, there's a lot of things I admire about you and I respect about you, and that's why I wanted to have you on the Minding My Business. But one of them is like you're the type of person where you know and you see if there's an issue and you have so much strength in your vulnerability, like you allow yourself to be vulnerable, but you also don't let it to control you, and you invest in yourself. Like
Hmm.
you invest on the side things so that you can become better in all areas of your life. And I think that's very admirable, especially in our men, right? Because we
Hmm.
need more men to step into their divine masculine. And vulnerability, I think, is such a superpower.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the like masculinity gets a pretty bad rap. And I'm not saying that I'm like the
Hmm.
most masculine man ever, right? But um, I think in order for you to really be in like your full masculine energy, you need to you need to be able to accept and in turn like at least deal with whatever emotions and whatever things you have in there in order for you to move on to the next thing. I think a lot of us, and even myself included, sometimes still hold on to previous issues, failures, or um, just emotions that will hold you back in really being your fullest and best self.
Hmm.
So you have to deal with those things first. You have to deal with whatever things you go to therapy, do whatever you need to do. But at a minimum, just understand that like there are things that are still holding you back from being your best self.
Hmm.
So if you can take the time to really like dig deep and like feel some stuff, because I think most men only know how to express their emotions through anger.
Hmm.
Um, so regardless of like whether they're feeling anxious, whether they're feeling scared or whatever, that ends up manifesting in anger because you haven't taken the time to really like identify what you're actually feeling and why. So I think that's
Yeah.
something that's super important.
Yeah. Have you noticed by you investing in your personal growth and development, because you've invested a lot and you're still investing in your personal growth and development with your fitness and, with your every really the mind, the body, the
Hmm.
mindsets, I already said mindset, but your spiritual pillar, right? We got the four pillars, the mental, physical,
Hmm.
emotional, and spiritual, and you're constantly investing in that. Have you noticed like your numbers increasing? I know it's been a little bit of a
A
challenging
thousand
year
percent.
economically, but can we talk a little bit about like as you've invested in your personal growth? Because it could be scary for a lot of people. They're like, well, I don't know if like should I reinvest it in like the business or should I reinvest it in myself? And if I invest in myself, like what's my ROI? Like, because how do you really measure that ROI in investing in your personal growth and development?
The simplest way I can put it is well, I'll talk about the fitness side and then I'll talk about like the business side. I'll talk about the business side first. But the simplest way I can put it is if I hadn't invested in myself at various levels of my career, I wouldn't have even been able to see the opportunities in front of me. Like I wouldn't have even been able to identify everything or take advantage of certain opportunities that were in front of me. Right? If knowing the things that I know now, I could go back to certain points in my life and I would have been able to capitalize so much more because I have the knowledge that I have now because I've invested in coaches or I've been around people who are extremely high level and super smart. Right? So from a like if you got to pick where to invest when you're starting out, you should be investing solely in yourself, going to events, paying the most money for the ticket to go shake some hands, um, and even just buying and actually listening to the books that you buy is an easy thing that like you can do to just jumpstart whatever it is, right? So from a business perspective, it's invaluable. And your favorite coach probably has a coach for a reason. And then same thing on the fitness side and just like on the body health side, like yeah, I still have personal trainers and coaches today. Because and this is why people buy coaching from us too. They need accountability. They need somebody to like sit there and talk to them every day. And most people work harder for somebody else than they do themselves. Period. Um, I'll use an example like myself as an example. I didn't even like I was even before Sam and I knew we had a baby on the way. I was already starting to go to church and like growing in my spirituality. But the second that I found out that I was going to have a baby, like that side of, I was like, I need to go all in. Like, I need to make sure that my baby's like going to grow up in the faith, going to like have the best morals, whatever, all that type of stuff. But it's because of like some sort of catalyst. And then I'm like, okay, like
Mm.
now I'm going to go get the extra coaching and whatever. Right. So, um, and uh and a coach helps with that it's like that's almost like an artificial um accountability it is what a coach is, right? So like me and like knowing that I'm gonna have a baby, I'm like, okay, like that's gonna hold me accountable. But if you don't have some sort of major life event, a coach is what's gonna do that for you. You're gonna be able to like hold yourself accountable, have somebody show up for you, and that you have to show up for, right? That's
Yeah.
the point that I'm trying to make, right? Like
Hmm.
when I was working with you or when I have other coaches, like I'm like, dude, I don't want to go to the gym today, but I know I gotta be accountable to somebody, so now I'm gonna go,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. It's like
So
send me
that's
those
kind of my
journals, send me them daily
exactly.
journals.
Yeah, so send
And
the journals in.
you guys don't have to
Yeah,
have a baby to like get have a
that's my point. Yeah,
catalyst.
so I'm just saying like that was like a big like
Yeah.
catalyst for me. But then if you like again, I'm not saying go make a baby. Uh,
I think that
but
was your next level catalyst because you had invested way before. I think you even had the intention of having a baby. I mean, I knew that you wanted to have a family at one
For
point,
sure.
but
Yeah.
you were
Well,
already free doing the work.
100%. Right. So like, yeah, I think that, I mean, I'm glad like, I'm so grateful it happened.
Mm,
And for like all kinds of different reasons. But yeah, you don't need to have some sort of crazy life event. Just go invest the money, go get a coach because it's going to help you no matter what you do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about, you and Sam, I love seeing you guys winning and thriving and your new like addition coming. I don't know how else to
Hmm.
say, your new addition, your baby,
Yep.
your little girl. What are some of the core values that you had set with the people that you let the closest into your heart and into your life? Whether it being, Sam, like what were those core
So
values that
yeah, that's a great question. Um, I actually had like early on, once we found out, like I was thinking a lot about like family core values. That's something that we had talked about here at the office too. And I was like, what? Like, because our core values at the office are like faith, train daily, play fair, no ego, and serve others. It's like
mm,
the Pledge of Allegiance. It's like the Pledge of Allegiance. But I was like, what would I want those to be for like my own family? So I sent her to. I was like I sent her like a list of like I think like 100 adjectives and like to like, and then I was like, what do you want? Like, what pick some? So like mine and then hers kind of like blended together. She like the difference. The other ones that she had, like she had empathy. She had connection, and then we also had discipline. That was mine. Um, and what was the fourth one that we had? Um, and just hard work. Like, and then I know discipline and hard work are very similar, but like that, like those are like I think the things that like we want to make sure that we instill in our family. And
mm,
then also those are the things that I value in other people. And then reverence was the last one too. So just like,
mm,
and I think that like that when I thought about the people in my life that I've really admired for, they all had a certain type of reverence.
mm,
And so that's something that I definitely want to like carry on into my family as well.
it's
So what about you? What are
beautiful.
your core values?
My core values are definitely God-centered. I've worked
Hmm.
very hard and intentionally to become a woman of God, and it's come in layers. So I think that everything has a layers and everything's like repetitions and having that one-on-one intimate relationship. And so therefore everything is like the center. So my friends, I pray over my future husband. I haven't met him yet, but I'm praying over
I
him.
love it.
So yeah, you have to like, so it's a different type of energy, like a certainty. Like I know I trust God and everything. And so, some things are scary, you get a little impatient, but definitely God centered. And this is what the podcast and everything in the business is always like God centered. And pursuit of excellence is one of them, regardless of what level somebody is at, because I think there's levels to everything. I don't think I know there's levels to everything on my own journey, but if you're in the pursuit of excellence, then eventually you're going to master that thing or that trait or that skill, or you're going to want to make that relationship work and you're going to work hard for that relationship and you're going to make time for it because you're somebody that strives for excellence. Definitely compassion, like having compassion, and that empathy aspect of it. So those are like the key. Uh, Also somebody that's honest with
Mm,
themselves and has a strong sense of emotional management and emotional availability for emotional intelligence. So those are definitely the non-negotiable staples that
love them.
to get close into my inner world.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
love
like,
that.
especially with what I know, I'm like, "Ugh, can't fool me, just can't fool yourself."
Yep.
So,
So
and
true.
it's cool to see because, eventually people you get to work with, like those become your people. Like I consider you
Mhm.
somebody like that would be a friend. We live close, so I'd be like, "What's up, you guys?" Probably pop in the office.
I would love it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I love people that are doing that work on themselves. So those are some things. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, of
cool.
course. I think that's a good question.
Yeah, it is a great question. I love that you're bringing those core values too, like into your home. I realize when people anchor into having core values for the home, when times get really, really hard, just like the company, you are, um, you're gonna make it through practically anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, and I've seen it. Obviously, I'm just studying like successful families in my network that I know that like I
Mm,
respect and have really well-to-do kids, and I'm
mm-hmm.
like, what do you guys do? And like, how did they end up this way? And like one of the reoccurring themes is like they do have actual core values that their kids
Mm-hmm.
know. And some people that I've talked to, like they pick like not their kids are old enough now where like they have the kids like they do a new set of core values with the kids. And so like everybody's involved. But one of the families that I like really respect, the last name's Baden. And so they
Mm,
just do it's Badens don't back down. And I was like, that's so good. And so like their kids know it, and like they live by that. And I was like, dude, like I love that. So things like that I'm like really starting to think about now, just as you know, life's changing.
yeah,
And just trying to take a lot of like the business stuff that I've learned and like how can I apply this to like my family dynamic and just
yeah,
all my relationships in general. So it's been fun.
yeah.
It's been a good journey.
They all intertwine. I think that's what you have to understand is that everything is an extension of you. And core values are like your driver and your
Absolutely.
funnel system. So it makes like making decisions a lot easier, I would think. And with that being said, what were like what if you could kind of maybe like list like one or two things of the things you had to overcome to like be this man that we're having conversation with today? What were those two things of what you had to overcome in order to like be him now?
Oof, that's a good question. Um, I think like I early on in my 20s and even, you know, I definitely made like a lot of mistakes and there was a lot of like so here's the answer. If I didn't have a relationship with God, I would have not been able to do anything at the level where I'm at today.
Mm,
And I think that, you know, there was a lot of things like internal guilt and shame and things that I had to overcome in order to like really be able to like walk in where I'm at now. And that came through. I mean, I thought it was just going to be like going to therapy, but that wasn't because even, and you mentioned something earlier about like lying to yourself, like even in
mm,
therapy, I'm like lying to myself. And,
mm,
so in order for me to like get to where I'm at now. And again, it's still a journey, and there's still things that like will inevitably come up down the road too.
mm,
But I think that has enabled me to like really grow as as a human, as a man. So I think that's number one, and then more a practical answer as well. I think that's like that number one is practical, but like a tactical answer, I think it's just really doing like self-awareness and like studying like what am I really good at? Like really looking at the interactions that I've had and being really, really honest with myself and like what am I really good at? What am I not so good at? And how can I either from a business perspective, like outsource and delegate some of the weaknesses, or from a like personal perspective, like how can I just work on those things, or like at least be like self-aware enough to like know like, hey, this is something that I struggle with, and just being upfront and open about it, so that way like we can have a good work like a good relationship. So I think those are
mm.
kind of like the two big things. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, I mean, these are for the audience too to
Hmm.
understand, like to see you as a human being and everything intertwines, at the same time, but it comes down to when you scale as a human being, you scale in business and everything else gets better. One of my favorite quotes,
Absolutely.
I don't remember where I heard it, but like what you appreciate will appreciate. So if you appreciate yourself
Mm,
and you pour value in yourself, your business, your relationships, everything will also appreciate, right? It's not just like a dollar, it's money spiritual. So
hmm.
everything else will appreciate. What you appreciate will appreciate. Start
I love
appreciating
that. Yeah,
yourself, everything else will appreciate.
it's a good quote. I
Um,
like that a lot.
I know, right? We're just dropping quotes today. Gary V. I don't know where that one came from. We'll have to Google it.
Yeah.
Now, the next question is if we are having conversation, it's November 27th, 2025. You are there, you've scaled. I know there's never like a there, but like
Hmm.
um you're just a better version of yourself. You're operating at higher levels of consciousness of yourself. Who do you have to become? Like, who do you have to become in the next 12 months?
I'm gonna have to be better with my time. I'm just balancing um, a newborn, still trying to run these
Mm,
businesses, still trying to be present for everything that we got going on. So just being a lot more efficient with that. I will have to be a lot more, and efficiency and this and discipline are gonna kind of go hand in hand here because if I'm not like, it's gonna be really easy for me to make excuses at this point, right? Like, oh, I'm
yeah.
tired. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, like,
You're already prepped for
baby,
that one, huh?
I know. Yeah, baby was crying all night. I can't go to the gym. Or so things that like I've made staples in my life are going to be challenged in this next season. So I think if I can walk away with um, enough discipline to still maintain a lot of those things throughout this new season, I think it's a win. And so we talked about it already, but like I need to continue to be present, need to continue to show up for the team, show up for my family. So I think that's really going to be the big, like for me, I think being present is going to be the big focus of 2025. Um,
Mm,
you know, if you were talking to me a year ago, I would definitely have some sort of financial goal.
mm,
But at this point, it's like if I just continue to grow, and I know this has been a big faith podcast, but if I continue to grow closer and just seek God first, everything else is going to come. I think it's like Matthew 6 something, but like if you seek the kingdom of God, everything else is going to follow. Everything
yeah,
else will flow. He's going to take care of you. So, that's my big focus is like if I can just keep strengthening that
yeah,
and everything else is going to come because if I seek him there, if he tells you to do a good work, right? Like, so you
hmm,
show up, do good work, and every like the, the pieces are going to fall where they're going to fall.
mm,
And so, yeah, that's really my big focus for 2025.
yeah. It's been interesting the last few men that I've had on the show. Um, they had mentioned like just the consistency. Like the consistency will scale you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because some people don't understand the power and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
especially knowing you have a newborn coming along the way. So if you could just be consistent, you're going to win.
yeah, exactly. Well, again, here's another quote, right? It's the Will Smith one where it's like, focus on laying each brick perfectly. Eventually, you have a wall, right?
Mm,
And so that's really the focus. So number one, just keep seeking God in everything. Keep just listen before you make a decision, right? Hey, is this what you really want me to do? And if I can just keep listening, keep doing what he tells me to do, and then do that faithfully to the best of my ability, I have no doubt that everything else is going to align exactly where it's supposed to be.
yeah.
So that's
I,
that's really been my focus
So we're both new followers, right, to Christ. I've
hmm
always followed God, but I
for sure.
surrendered
Like it's
like
getting deeper.
February.
hmm
Yeah, exactly. So for somebody that wants to have that intimate relationship, that unwavering faith that you now have with God, what would you like advise them as far as like strengthening that level of intimacy? Like what would be like the first like clear step for them? Because talking about God could be really overwhelming. I know that was for me. I had
hmm
the desire, but I was like, it's so overwhelming. Like, I don't like, what do I start? What do I do? Bible's overwhelming. Overstimulation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before you even get into the Bible, I think it's like really sit down and pray and ask God for a sign. Like,
Mm,
God, if you're like, and like I know you're there, but like if I was a brand new, like this is kind of like what happened to me. I was like, God, if you are real,
mm,
like show me.
mm.
God, if you're like if you are actually out there, like show me, please. And it's not gonna like you might, but you're not gonna get struck by lightning or something crazy, but
Hopefully
like
that won't
stuff.
happen, you guys.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like, but you will see something. God has revealed himself to me, like in through actual experiences.
Really?
Um,
Can
yeah,
you share
absolutely.
one?
Um, so I was going through like a pretty tough time and like I was just like um God, like please like help me out, like just let me like figure something out. And then he blessed me in a certain financial way. And I remember I was going to and like I so like this all had to happen in like a hour long period.
Mm,
So like I was like, God, like what should I do? Like actually here I'm gonna give you even a better example because this just happened. And like it's funny how the more things that you like as you start praying and getting deeper in your faith, the more crazy things start to pop up. So I was we've had a lot of success with our wholesale business and with running ads nationwide. And I was like, dude, like I should probably get back in the game. Just on the side. Like, so we have so many leads, we have all this other stuff. And I'm like, God, like what should I do? Like, should I I know I'm gonna have a conversation with Ryan about it. Like I want to continue to keep running the businesses. I want to like figure something out in some way, shape, or form. That was one night. Literally the next morning, Ryan comes in. Hey, Javi, I had a dream that we need to talk about about like you and like possibly like going and doing your own wholesale business. Him and I had not talked about this at all. And he was like,
Ryan's connected.
you're gonna see some crazy stuff come soon. Um, and like literally, but like I had been thinking about it, but the second that I actually like prayed it like out loud, he comes in like and it worked out. And so now we're doing a bunch of other stuff and whatever. But like, so that's just a very small example.
Mm.
Here's another example of something that I saw that's like it's gonna sound crazy. But I'll just keep it going because
Yeah,
it's
we like
wild.
this. This is how this podcast rolls.
Yeah,
We want
no,
it all.
like I again I know it sounds weird, but has happened. Um, this was between Ryan, one of our business coaches, name's Gary Harper.
Mm.
Um, so we're doing our All-Star Mastermind. He was supposed to be there for whatever reason. I didn't know it at the time. But he had a tumor
Mm.
size of like literally they said it was like the size of like a grapefruit, or
Mm.
like a tennis ball or something crazy, like legit, like on his side. Um, and in the morning, he calls Ryan and was like, dude, there's a tumor there. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. They're scanning me right now to figure out whether or not it's cancerous or whatever. And like, I just want you to pray for me. So
Mm.
they pray together. They're doing their thing. Ryan says that he feels like something from the Holy Spirit, like leave him, like his words, not mine. And anyway, we do the event, we move on, we're doing the thing. He calls him afterwards, Gary does, and is like, dude, I don't know what happened. They said the tumor liquefied. Like, I'm not like literally
I
like
believe it.
a fully fledged like chunk of, and he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like all they have to do is drain it. Like, and the
Wow.
doctors are like, dude, I don't even know like how that happened. So
Mm.
I've seen like, so stuff like that has been crazy. And again, you could
Yeah.
say like, oh, like whatever, but to me, like just seeing, and I could keep going, but there have been a few different things that like I've seen from just adjacent, and then also like in my own life too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll do one more, then we can move on. So Sam, this is how Sam like number one, the way we both came to come to start going to church. I was thinking about it independently. Sam was thinking about it independently. We
Hmm.
had not brought it up at all. And one night, I was like, "What do you think about going to church?" She's like, "I was about to ask you the same thing." And like, neither of us had ever talked about it at all. So even just like that, like you could say, "Oh,
Hmm.
that's a coincidence" or whatever, but like that's just, in my opinion, how the Holy Spirit like starts to move.
Hmm.
And one of the things that um, when she was like right before we found out she was pregnant, um, she says like I think she started praying and then like immediately she knew. Like and she found out like 3 weeks into like the pregnancy, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. So before she even missed her period, she was like praying and then she's like, I'm pregnant. I think I know. And then so again, take it for what it is, but it was only after prayer that she found out.
Hmm.
And so like, and again, no one knows after 3 weeks, but she did. And she went, got a test, and like it came back and it was like, I don't, for anybody who has gotten a pregnancy test, sometimes the line shows up a little faint and you're like, I'll probably have to take another one. This one was like dark. I was like, it's gonna be done,
Confirmed.
confirmed. But anyway, I know it's
Yeah.
a little bit, I know it's, so again, I
No, we
know for
love
anybody
those.
listening,
Yeah.
sounds
But
crazy,
that
but
it's not crazy. I think you're also describing the difference between like it's not a coincidence when it's like synchronicity, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
like synchronicity versus coincidences. And what you're also saying too is like, you know, Ryan's strength with the Holy Spirit is because he's also obedient to the Holy Spirit. So as we become more obedient to the Holy Spirit, and we don't fight it, like God is gonna use us to glorify him.
100%. 100%. And this actually comes back to your first question about like if I was like flirting with the idea of like Christianity or coming to
Mm-hmm,
God or whatever, what would I recommend to somebody? Number one, like literally just pray. Like
mm-hmm,
God, like if you're real, like I'm open to you, reveal yourself to me, like please. So that's number one. And then number two would be yeah, I think there's like some great like I would if you're already ready to like jump in, I would go to the Bible app and they have some really good like guided devotionals that are
mm-hmm,
made just for new believers. So like step one is like if you're just like brand new and you have like kind of curious, right? Like
mm-hmm,
really take some time, like pray, listen, and he will reveal himself. Um, Next thing is like you can go to the Bible app and you can start like just finding different like devotionals
mm-hmm,
for new believers. What Ryan told me to do once I was like in, like when you start ready to read the Bible, read the New Testament, right?
mm-hmm,
Like go Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, then go through the rest of it.
mm-hmm,
And that's what I started doing like right away. Just like
mm-hmm.
I got like he gifted last story, then we can move on because I know we're a little long here. Sorry, do you have to go?
No, I don't have to go.
Okay.
I'm good. I want
All
to
right.
hear these stories. And then we're gonna
So
also like tune into the audience too, because I love this. This is
yeah,
great.
okay. This is so Ryan was picking up his new Hummer
Mm-hmm,
and he was like, "Hey dude, do you want to drive? Like do you like I need a ride. So do you want to take me?" And it was like a 30-45 minute drive. So we're in Vegas, we're going to Laughlin. So it's kind of far. We start driving and we never had a full conversation about faith yet. I had not like I was like like at this point I'm just asking like I was like dude like I was asking all the questions, right? The standard stuff that people hear, like, okay, like, you know, if you've never been exposed to Christianity and you die, do you really go to hell? Like stuff like that, right? And we
mm-hmm,
can talk about that stuff later too. But I was just asking all these different types of questions. Turns out, like, we had been driving like for way longer than we were supposed to be, and and we basically had been like going for like an hour and a half. I'm like, where are we? And I had a GPS. Like we like I had Apple Maps up and everything. Anyway, so like I just don't think it's any coincidence that we had to spend an extra hour and a half to get to a 30-minute drive because we did make a wrong turn. Um, but I would like if I wouldn't have had that like intellectual type of conversation about Christianity, I probably wouldn't have been ready to like receive anything else yet. So the
mm-hmm.
fact that even like that we have all the technology in the world and somehow like I missed a wrong turn. Like again, you can say that's coincidence, but to me, looking back on it and now seeing all the other pieces that have lined up when they
Mm-hmm.
lined up, there's no doubt in my mind that that's the Holy Spirit moving.
Yeah.
And just because like I wouldn't have been able to come to God as quickly as I had if I hadn't have had that hour and a half to 2 hour long conversation
Mm-hmm.
about theology and about like what it really is. Right. So,
Mm.
um,
That's so
yeah.
amazing. But
And then
that's
so, yeah,
synchronicity, right? It's
yeah, yeah,
all lined
exactly.
up.
So, anyway, sorry.
No,
I
that's not.
forgot your question.
Well,
Yeah.
that I think that also comes back to like kind of in the core values because even what Ryan has created, everything and every one of the that works with the company is some form of an extension of him, and eventually like that rubs off on everybody.
Oh, yeah, for sure. As a leader. And then, well, you just see how people like, and it's so sad that there's a lot of issues with Christianity and these big pastors run into issues and whatever, right? But when you really see somebody who like is actually living it, you're
Hmm.
like, I want what that guy has. Like whatever, I don't know what it is yet, but I want that.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it just kind of rubs off on you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a It's been great. So, and I credit that to like all the peace and all the success that I have experienced, and also
Mhm.
just like I don't know, the last like 6 months have been crazy in terms of like just growth and like
Mhm.
actual like emotional intelligence that because again, I've tried before this, I had tried everything else. I
Mhm.
had crystals, I lit sage, I like whatever, right? I was like
Yeah.
law of attraction, hook me up, like, but nothing felt as deep or as worked as like actually like the Holy Spirit has and God, and so like
Mhm.
that's my testimony.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's and yeah, I mean, it's like, it's like once you've experienced like what's on the other side, you want everybody to come on the other side, right? And the best thing
I
you can
know.
do, as you mentioned, is you be the embodiment, and that will alone inspire others to be like, I don't know, man, Javi's changed, yo. He's changed for the
Well,
better, and he just seems happier and more at peace. I want that, because you can't buy that. You have to show up for it every day.
well, exactly, and that comes through the next part. Now, okay, so let's say you become a Christian, right? Like, is are there fruit? Are there fruits? Right? Meaning, like, what does your life look like after you have come to Christ? Right?
Mm,
Like, because if you are still doing the same stuff, or if you are still the same type of person, meaning
mm,
like habitually living in sin, and that's a difference between falling into sin,
yeah.
right? Like that's fine. Like as long as you repent and you turn away from that and you do your thing, that's one thing. But then if you come to God and then you are still habitually doing the thing,
Mm,
then that's a problem. Right? Then
mm.
that's probably why you might not feel I'm not saying you, but like somebody might not feel
Yeah, of
like the
course.
Holy Spirit's there because you're still
Yeah.
living in the thing. So that's like the next step. Once you're like, okay, this is real, like, okay, now how do I actually live the way God intended? Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's where you start, like you mentioned, you start seeing like, oh, like somebody he's changed. Hey, Tanya's all of a sudden, she's changed up the way like things are going. She was already operating at a high level, but now I see something different about her. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's where things start to like really get interesting and exciting. Once you
Yeah.
realize like, oh, like this is how I'm supposed to live. Okay, I got you. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of been that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like, okay, like what are the things like now that I know the rules of the game, now I need to go play it at a high level.
Mm. That's a quotable.
Yeah.
Now that I know the rules of the game, I gotta write that down. Now that I know.
Yeah.
We're gonna
That
quote you
one,
in
yeah.
the caption. Now that I know the rules to the game, I gotta play at a high level.
Yeah. Don't put me in there. That was the Holy Spirit for sure.
Well, it's still a channel from you.
Yeah. He spoke through me.
Yeah, I soaked through weeks. You guys, this is exciting stuff. We get
Hmm.
excited about this. So,
Hmm.
with that being said, I know man, we could probably now go into a whole freaking another hour of podcast
You
on this
could.
alone. We'll save it for another day. What advice, because it flows into this, if you were to leave the viewer with one thing that if they integrated on a day by day basis, would change and elevate their business, their mindset, and their life, what would that one thing be?
Besides knowing God, um, so that's number one. I think I think it really is self-awareness.
Mm,
Um, really getting real with yourself and knowing what your skill set is. And so we can go like, well, I'll go. I've been very spiritual, so let's go tactical really quick. Um,
yes.
so the best entrepreneurs are the best resource allocators, meaning they're not the best salespeople, they're not the best operators, they're not the best um, accountants, whatever it is. The best CEOs are the best resource allocators. So what that means is what is the highest and best use of my time, money, and resources?
Mm,
So if I know that like, hey, something isn't a good use of my time, I have to eliminate that or I got to delegate it to really focus on the things that are actually going to move my business forward. So every time that we coach somebody in the entrepreneur space or whatever, the first thing that we do is like, hey, like, what are you spending your time on? And what are the levers in your business that actually drive something forward? Right. So once you identify Like the these are the top three highest leverage activities in my business. That's what I need to focus on, and I need to eliminate and I need to cut out everything else in order to go be successful. So that's like what I think we do pretty well. Is like we're just constantly auditing time, money,
Mm,
resources, right? If that's all a business is, it's just how much time am I going to dedicate to something? How much money do I have to spend on the project? And like, what are the human and technology resources that I have? If you
mm,
understand those three things and like how to leverage them, that's what makes you successful.
I love that. And you also mentioned too earlier on in the conversation is that like do it daily, do it weekly, do it monthly. Do
Yeah.
not wait for the quarterly.
Because in the quarterly, like everything's
It's too
like
late.
it's yeah, it's way too late. You're like, yeah, I just wasted 3 months of my life. And then
Mm-hmm.
it takes a while to like figure it out after that. So like,
Mm.
um, and one of the things that I really, uh, I think you know Brian, right? Yeah, you know Brian,
Brian.
Davila
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the beard.
Mm-hmm.
The My favorite quality that I try to pull from him, or that I learned from him, is just do it now.
Mm.
Everybody waits till Monday. Everybody waits till whatever, like oh, like I'll call him in an hour. Like Brian is the king of no, I'm gonna call him right now, and like he'll do everything is literally this moment, and it comes back to being present. But like there's no waiting for him. Like he's like, dude, I want to go feed the homeless. I'm gonna go do it today. Like I'm buying stuff and I'm gonna go do it. Or like, hey, like, oh, he needs to talk to this seller. Call him right now. Like everything that he does is now, and that's why, in my opinion, that's one of the main reasons why he's successful.
Yeah. Well, you guys, Javi also said self-awareness. There's a difference between impulsiveness and
Yes. Yeah. I mean, but you might disagree, but I would rather somebody be impulsive and be
for
doing
the right
stuff.
things though, for the right
Yeah, yeah.
things.
Well,
So
yeah.
that's I'm
So
saying
of
the
course, there.
self-awareness with the, take
Yeah,
action now.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely a balance between like taking calculated action, but I would always have somebody. I would rather them err on the side of
Mm.
impulsive versus being super like calculated and impulsive. Like make sure you're doing the right activities, but um, if you can fail fast, you're gonna be more successful than somebody who's waiting to make the right decision, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I
Ob
literally want to go on a whole nother tangent with you. I literally am like, oh, I was like, but we could probably talk for another hour. I did want to just add and ask
hmm
the difference of impulsiveness from ego versus impulsiveness of the Holy Spirit in alignment because there's
hmm
discernment in there.
100%. I agree.
I want to say that for the people, for the viewers, because I know
Yeah.
personality traits.
Yeah.
So
And I
I'm
think there's a
like,
difference. Yeah. And I think there's
yeah.
a difference between like make that phone call be versus, hey, should I go start a business? Right.
Mm-hmm.
There are like levels to the activity. And yeah, I think
Because
one thing
Brian's a
that
high
I'm
level performer at a higher level and trained
Yeah, and
skill.
most of the decisions that he's making are already within his umbrella of
Yeah.
expertise, right? So I will
Hmm.
make that clear, right?
Yeah.
Like we're
I
not
just want to
talking
make
about,
sure we got people of different levels. So,
yeah, I'm not talking about like
yeah.
dropping 50K to go start some crazy business or something. I'm
And
talking
have
about
no
like,
skill set.
yeah, you're right. Like take the time to like understand the decisions that you're gonna make, but once you know like what you're supposed to do it
Hmm.
now. So like
Yeah.
I agree with you, right? So,
Yeah. I
uh,
just had to make it clear. I had to make it clear. But because
you're right.
I know who you're talking about and I know who you work with. And sometimes I think we forget the different levels and layers of what
Absolutely.
got us to that. And so for
Yeah,
him,
no,
he's so trained and skilled, just like you.
yeah, just but
Um,
so take the time to invest in yourself and learn. So I agree. But once you know what you're supposed to do it now. There's no point in waiting.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and so anyway, um, this has been so fun. What else
I'm
you got
so
for me?
glad. Yes, I'm so glad. Well, we're going to cut off here and then we're also going to just kind of look at the questions on the Instagram live. So if you guys have questions on Instagram, we could kind of scroll through that and you can answer
Mhm.
whatever you want. But I'm going to close out here. So thank you all for listening. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. If you found value in today's episode, make sure you subscribe, that you like, you comment below one of your greatest takeaways for today. and you tag at Tanya C. Oliver and our guest. Until next time, remember that you were built for this, and it's time to elevate your business, mindset, and your life.